What is going on, everybody? Alex here in Krakow, in southern Poland. I was just speaking with a client about imposter syndrome. Do you get imposter syndrome? Do you keep yourself at night in a cold sweat worrying about imposter syndrome? Well, you're not alone, because I've had imposter syndrome, and I thought this would be a good topic of conversation for this video. What is imposter syndrome? What does it mean? How have I personally experienced it and worked through it? And what does it all mean, really? So imposter syndrome, obviously it's a label, isn't it? It's a name that some clever person has come up with to define the experience that they were, the emotional experience that they were having at the time, and the thinking associated with it. Now, you might find yourself up against a challenge in life, whether it be giving a talk, starting a new job, perhaps committing to writing a book or an article. Maybe you're about to meet somebody new, or you're going to a cocktail party, if they still have those anymore, and you have a thought that comes up that says something like, I need to do well here, I need to impress people, I need to perform, I don't want to look like a moron, I don't want to show myself up to be inadequate, and all the other thinking that accompanies courageous, bold moves often in our lives. And I'm sure you've experienced this many times. This sense that you are not enough, and you're experiencing that because there's a thought that says you aren't potentially enough, there's something wrong with you, maybe something that someone said in your youth is now coming up for you and triggering you. Maybe you are about to join a new class or something, and maybe something that came up in, as a memory from your past is kind of getting in the way of you feeling good and confident about meeting new people. Whatever it is, doesn't feel good, and we often put a label on that bundle of feelings. And in this case, we have a thing called imposter syndrome that humans have done a very good job of making it seem as if it's a real thing. An important, serious thing. Oh, John, you've got imposter syndrome. You've got this thing coming up, and you're obviously worried about it. You've obviously got imposter syndrome. There's something wrong with you. You need to sit down and spend many hours ruminating on this and figuring yourself out, because there's something not quite right. And that's part of the problem, is thinking that this thing called imposter syndrome, that you have a sense that you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're not adequate enough. Who am I to come along and teach this class? Who am I to come along and say that I am all that as a coach, as a video self-development guru? I could very well be dealing with all kinds of imposter syndrome, and I do, to be honest, experience what looks like imposter syndrome. And as I was hinting at a second ago, all it really is a thought. It is a label we put on an emotional experience, and we give it credence. We give it the sense that we give it a sense that it is a real thing, and everyone around us agrees with us and says, "Oh, you must have that thing. We'll diagnose you with imposter syndrome." So we're only as limited as we are by our thinking. We're only as much of an imposter as we think we are. So that's the first thing that I realized in sort of addressing this, that we get these feelings, whatever it is, a thought or a feeling comes first in response to some kind of stimulus out in the world. We see something, we see a class that we have to attend, and we get worried, and we feel a twinge in our stomach, and we feel bad. We feel like, I'm scared, I'm not cut out for this. And then we hear someone on a blog post say that you might have imposter syndrome, and then we start taking it more seriously, and we start believing in the very thing that is holding us back in the first place. We start creating our own limitations. So to the degree that you think you have imposter syndrome, you will have imposter syndrome. That's really powerful in understanding that. To the degree that we have a thought about how limited we are limited to that degree. This has been really helpful for me, just seeing how we create our own limitations, like, Spider-Man creating his own web. And that's really all there is to it. And it applies, of course, to anything that comes up in your mind that looks like it's a tangible, real life human problem, when in actual fact you're falling for the lies that your thinking is trying to come up with, and it's doing it for good reason. This is key as well. Your thinking is a reflection of your of many good aspects in you, and that's also worth acknowledging. The reason you have what looks like imposter syndrome is because you care. You care to make a good impression. You care to do a good job. You care that people respect you and admire you, and these are all good things to look for. But of course, in response to these concerns that come from a good place, we create boundaries and limitations for ourselves. And there's a lot to understanding that in and of itself. If we are thinking that we've got imposter syndrome, then we have the power to let go of that thought. And I want to ask you now, who are you when you don't have the thought, I should do better, I need to be fixed, I need to do this better, who am I to stand here? These are all questions. These are all subjective thoughts and opinions that are coming up that are holding you back. And they don't need to mean anything if you don't let them have that power over you. You don't need to look at this thing, this concept, and take it so seriously. You can let it go. And when we let go of these thoughts and we let them float past, when we let go of the thought that we are an imposter in the wrong clothes and we shouldn't be there, then we're not going to have that worry anymore. We're not going to have that anxiety. So if you are approaching something scary, maybe some events coming up, and you feel like you're in the wrong place and you've got these questions and these thoughts that come up, rather than entertaining those thoughts, which are just trying to help you, but you can just say, you know what, I appreciate it, but I don't need your help right now. Get back to the present. Enjoy everything you can about the present, including the sounds and alarms of this city. Enjoy the present. It's always, all of this anxiety, all of this insecurity is always a reminder that we're not being present enough, and we're not acknowledging the power of being present enough. We're getting lost again. We keep falling for the tricks that all these thoughts and all these subjective opinions are creating for us, and they're not true. They're all lies, and that alone is helpful. And that doesn't mean that your anxiety is going to switch off like a tap immediately. It certainly means that it's going to feel better, and you're going to feel more in flow, and you're going to be more creative, and all of the things that you need the most when you are to perform, when you are being asked to step up by the world, to perform, to create something, to lead, to speak, to talk, to share. The last thing you need is to be up in your head worried about how you're coming across, because that's going to close you up. And the thing that you need the most is, you guessed it, creative ease and a relaxedness that comes with your mind also being relaxed. And to leave you with one final little sort of tip that I use is, rather than trying to overthink all of this and trying to not think, which is really hard, relax your shoulders and take a few breaths. And that can help you kind of physically relax. And when you physically relax, your mind will also relax. That's it from me today on the topic of imposter syndrome. Again, this conversation can apply to all kinds of other mental and physical ailments that scare us as we move through our lives. So don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to let your body kind of relax whenever you notice it kind of seizing up, and have fun. If you enjoyed this video, do subscribe for more videos on making the most of our experience on this planet. Productivity, energy, mental health, mental wellness, mental power. Follow me for more on these topics, and do like this video if you liked it. Appreciate you guys watching. Take care.